Hey y'all, welcome. Sorry about that, we ran a little bit late, we're having some clock issues. I'm Mark, you're in Rosetree Blown Glass Studio. I'm the owner and glassblower here. I own the business with my wife Brenda, and we're welcoming you into the studio today to learn a little bit about glass, learn a little bit about some other things, and just allow me to be the teacher for a little bit, and we'll get going. First thing though, because this is No Fest 2020, we decided to set up a kind of a little display of what you would kind of see in our gallery or out at the fairgrounds or at a show. So what we have here is just some wonderful ideas for Mother's Day gifts. We have some sale pieces, and we have some pieces that we really just started doing since we've been under quarantine. So and we have a new dish soap dispenser also that y'all haven't seen yet. And then what we're going to do today is the two-tone cylinder vase, the one with the flowers in it. So that's what we're going to make today. And as always, if you are on a watch party, I can't read your messages. So if you want to ask me a question, you have to go onto our Facebook feed. Again, if you like what's happening, thumbs up. Arts are great. Comments, please. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to make that vase. So let's talk as I go. We're going to come over here to our furnace. And the furnace is where the glass is kept. There's a big ceramic bowl inside called a crucible. My crucible can hold up to 400 pounds of molten glass. Molten meaning liquid. So to make a glass a liquid, you need 2,000 degrees. So it's 2,050 actually inside my furnace. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my first layer of glass, which is called a gather, because I'm gathering the glass onto the pipe. I'm going to get my first gather. I'm going to show you a couple things. So, that's my gather. Actually, the glass is hotter than lava. I have to keep turning my pipe all the time, because I stop turning, it will droop off. Now, I've had a couple of teachers chime in afterwards and want me to talk a little bit specifically to their class. So, we're going to do a little bit of science today, and a little bit of math, along with a little bit of art. So the science being, what is gravity? So, gravity, if I stop turning it, starts to droop. That's gravity. Gravity is the force that pulls us to the middle of the mass. The middle of the mass is Earth for us right now. So gravity is what's pulling us, keeping us on the Earth, on the ground. I'm going to blow into my pipe 1 second. So I blew into the pipe, I cover the end, I'm doing what's called an air trap. When the cold air hits the hot glass, it heats up and expands. And you can see there's a bubble starting to grow on the inside. So that bubble is actually going to be the inside of my piece. So, we're also going to talk about volume today. I have an 8th grade class that's working on volume, and I think diameter, radius, those kind of things, and equations. So I'm going to do a little bit of that. You people who are beyond school years, school age, it might trigger a few memories back for you. It might be good, it might be bad, but we're going to do a little bit of incorporating other subjects in, because it's kind of easy for me to do. So to get my next layer of glass, actually, Mark's talking too much. Mark needed to put white on as inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat this back up, which I do have the time to do that, and I'm going to coat it with white glass. So you see I have to keep turning all the time, because if not, gravity will take over. a little bit later, we're going to compare gravity to centrifugal force. So those of you, I think, in 8th grade or whatever, I'm going to ask you a couple questions later when it comes up. So here we are in lovely New Orleans. I hope y'all are having a good day, or as good as it can be. It's a gorgeous day again in New Orleans. We're having like this past month, days have been gorgeous. We had rain the other day, but we still, during the day, that was at night, during the day it's been a wonderful, wonderful weather, which is why this is great festival weather for us down here. So, I'd like students, if you have a question, please write your age and where you're from. Teachers, if you have a question, you don't have to write your age, but you can give a shout out to your schools. So I'm putting white on. You see, I have to get it hot for the white to stick. I'm going to put 3 coats of white with a nice solid inside color. So we're in New Orleans. As always, I ask you, where are you?
We've already had New York and LA.
All right. I've met Barry and Christy.
We've got Florida. Rachel's in Florida.
Wonderful. I always like to know who the closest is and who the farthest is. I'd love to have somebody else from another country chime in. Even Canada. You're another country. I know I have lots of friends in Canada.
We've got Kansas City, Gold Canyon, Arizona, and Vermont.
Wonderful, wonderful. So that's my second layer of color. Again, I have to keep turning it all the time. And this will be my third.
Got Rhode Island and Mississippi as well.
Rhode Island and what was
Mississippi.
That? Mississippi. Welcome.
We've got a Montana. That one's new.
Montana is new.
And Indiana.
Great.
And neighbors right across the street.
Wonderful. Howdy, neighbors. Is that Abby? Who's?
Carol.
Carol. Okay, great. Oh, across the street from my house.
Oh.
Yeah. This is not my house. Although it seems like I live here all the time. Brenda will tell you it's my house. All right, so I'm going to smooth this out and make sure that my bubble isn't forced out. I'm going to do an air trap just to make sure, because I can't see it anymore. So I'm kind of flying blind as to what the volume inside the base is going to be. So I'm looking at the outside, and if you see carefully, you see it's kind of puffed out right there. So that tells me the bubble is in. So I'm going to let that cool off a bit, and the way I know how the right temperature is the color of the clear glass below the color, below the white. So you see it's kind of an orangey color right now, and when that turns back to kind of clear, I can see the dark pipe underneath. That tells me I can get another layer on top. So this is going to be a three-layer piece. First gather is going to be white. Second gather, we're doing yellow and green. And the third gather is going to be clear on top of all of that. Again, you see I have to keep turning it all the time. Are there any other glass blowers out there? I know there are. I want to see if you report in. Also, teachers, like I said, if you have any questions or ways you think that I could fit this into your lessons, I'm all ears. I was a teacher once. I taught for 5 years in Jefferson Parish here, It was called Arts and Education Program, and I developed a program that taught basic skills through different art forms. So reading, writing, and math through visual arts was my thing. So I can incorporate it with what I'm doing here. My wife Brenda was a teacher. She taught for 20 years in Jefferson Parish, which is actually where we met. So we have a special love for teachers and what they're doing.
So Jerry Lynn wants to know if flame workers count.
Flame workers do always. Of course.
We've got Derek, who's a lamp worker,
Wonderful.
and Michael from Oregon Coast Glass.
Wonderful. Great to have y'all. Okay, so this is my second gather.
Or maybe he's an Oregon Coast Glass blower.
Oregon Coast Glass Blower, yeah. Actually, it was I who came on the other day, and I looked him up, and yes, he is an Oregon Coast Glass Blower. So, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to put the yellow on first. And again, that's going to be 3 layers. So, back to the art curriculum. We've talked about primary colors, secondary colors. There's one other kind of color that I want to talk about, and that is a mixture of primary and secondary. So if you remember the primary colors, I know there's somebody out there that was here when we talked about primary. Can somebody please refresh my mind as to what a primary color is?
Not an answer to the question yet, but Michael did say that they also build glass blowing equipment.
Oh, wonderful.
Always good to know.
Michael, if you want to put your URL up, that way if anybody else is a glass blower and sees this, they'll know where to find you.
Susan said red, yellow, and blue.
Red, yellow, and blue is the correct answer. So, yellow is my primary color. So yellow is done. Next color is what's called a secondary color. There are 3 secondary colors. Who can tell me what a secondary color is? And you have a little bit of time because I gotta do 3 dips in the next color also. So that's 1. Anybody out there know secondary colors? Okay, adults, you're in now too. So if you want to, you can tell me. Nobody? Is anybody out there? Anybody paying attention? Didn't know there was going to be a test today, did you?
Judy said green, orange, and purple.
Green, orange, and purple. That's true. Okay, so we have a primary color and a secondary color on here. The next kind of color is called a tertiary color. Tertiary means third. So it's the third color, and it's made with a combination of, you guessed it, a primary and a secondary. So, in a perfect scheme of things, where this yellow crosses over the green, what color do you think I'm going to get?
Susan was asking, why did you just add green color to the tip?
Because that's going to be the bottom part of the base.
And just a refresher for everybody who's coming in late. This is what we're making today.
So just like the blue is on that base, the green is on this base. So if you mix yellow and green together, tertiary colors, pretty obvious, is yellow-green. So tertiary colors are always named by the primary color first. So yellow-green, red-violet, blue-violet, red orange, missing one, yellow orange. That's 6. But anyway.
You see my lesson.
So what I'm doing now is I am heating the whole thing up. I'm going to put it in what's called an optic mold. An optic mold is it puts lines on my glass. So this will give me the lines on the vase that I want.
Wendy said that she learned in cosmetology that colors across the color wheel cancel each other out.
So that is, you'll see the lines that it put on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat this whole thing up again. And you can see it has, you can hear it. It has ridges. So just I'm going to make decoration a little bit. I like the lines. I like the what would the word? I like lines because of the pattern that they make. But I also, they're a little predictable. So I'm going to go in and twist them a little bit and just make a different design with the lines. Okay, I'm going to do that one more time. So you see on the vase, those swirls are made like I just did with the tweezers.
Carly wants to know, can you heat out the lines, or do they stay there always after the mold?
The ridges I can heat out, but the lines will stay. So I will be heating out the ridges because I have to get the next layer on top. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is alright, so I have all my twisties in it. And it looks a mess, but it's really a controlled mess. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat this up really well, smooth it out on the table. The table's called a marver. And smooth it out on my marver and get ready for the last gather on top of that. So just so you know, we're almost 20 minutes in, and it's going to take a little bit more than the half hour. So just kick back and enjoy the show. So I'm always heating it up, I'm always turning. When I stop turning, you'll see that it'll start to droop again. You're right. So I'm starting to smooth it out again. So you'll notice it's not clickety-clacking like it was before because the ridges are almost all out. So I'm going to blow into it, make sure that the bubble is still there and I didn't force it out when I put the lines in. And you'll see it's starting to spread out a little bit on the sides.
You've got a good bit of family watching today.
Who's watching?
Brenda, your sister, and brother-in-law.
That's Brenda.
Your sister, her brother. All three.
All right.
Hey, Tracy. That's my family.
All right, so what I'm doing one more time is, you can see there are little dips in it, and what I'm going to do is I'm trying to get those dips to smooth out. If not, I'll trap an air bubble, and I really don't want that. If I want to put an air bubble in, I want to put a controlled bubble in exactly where I want it. Again, always turning. All right, so I have two gathers. There you see, I got that. I got two gathers on there with my colors: white inside, yellow and green outside. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I have to wait for down here to lose color. Once it loses color, I can get my last gather on top. So that's going to take a second. Any other questions out there? Let me take a little drink. It's hot.
All right, you take a break. I'm gonna.
Okay, Darcy's going to show the pieces again. Our Mother's Day selection. These are all available right now. I'm going to another layer of glass. I'll be right back.
And everything is up on the website and the Facebook gallery sale page. You can find those there. The wine glasses, the champagnes, and the dizzy cups are sold as pairs.
So I have my last layer of glass on top, and now I'm going to use what's called a block. And the block is made out of wood, and that's used to help shape the glass. And what happens is the wood burns a little bit. You can see it's kind of burned out a little bit, but not as much as if it was just the wood and not in the water. The water gives it a layer of steam that it rides on, and doesn't burn the block as much. Again, always turning when I'm working.
Nope. I flipped it. Put it
out. I'm turning. Hi. Somebody tells us how to turn this thing back, please.
Got it.
All right, right behind you. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
Technology.
I had a moment.
This whole thing is forcing us to use too much technology. Like, how many of you people knew about Zoom before we all got quarantined? It's like, now everybody's using it, everybody knows how to use it. Great for Zoom. So now what I'm doing is I'm just kind of putting the heat where I want, or cooling where I want, so that some part is hotter, some part is not, and when I start to blow, it'll blow out where I want it to. So I'm cooling the tip a little bit, blowing a little bit more.
So, Rachel was asking, she said, water comes in different forms: frozen, liquid, vapor, mist. What are the names of the different forms of glass?
Water, vapor, no, I would guess it was just solid, it'd be solid, liquid, and gas, depending on the temperature. Some people call solid glass a super cooled liquid. There's debates about that, but water is the kind of thing that it has different names for the different states that it's in. Not many other things do, I don't think off the top of my head. This is what's called a jack line, so I'm putting a line in here, which we're going to need a little bit later. Rachel, were you the one who I was talking to about volume? Waiting for an answer.
I think we're running just a touch behind, so it's taking a minute.
Oh, there's a lag time. So I'm heating this up, I'm cooling off the bottom. The glass, if everything is the same temperature, the glass will blow to the thinner spot, not the thicker spot, or it'll blow to the hotter spot. I'm trying to use that to my advantage to make my shape.
Rachel said no.
Oh,
She was
okay.
not the one.
Okay, cool. Well, hello, thanks for the question. Very good question.
Yeah.
This is going to be very green and just a little bit of yellow. So, let's talk volume. Volume is the space inside of something. I am making a cylinder. So you eighth grade scientists out there, sorry, I'm blowing. This cylinder is going to be 4 inches wide by 11 inches tall. That's all the numbers that you're going to need to figure out how much volume the cylinder is going to have. Again, 4 inches wide, 11 inches tall. You can call the width the diameter. That should help you with your equation. So I'm always going in and heating and getting that jack line in a little bit. 4 inches. Checking my measurements. Yep. So, next science question or science statement or whatever I'm doing. We talk about gravity, which is the force that keeps us on the Earth. We can talk about centrifugal force, which I'm going to use in a second to elongate this piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, you notice the shape now, I'm going to swing it around and it's going to get longer. So centrifugal force is the force moving away from the mass. So as something moves away from the mass, centrifugal force will throw it further or elongate it in my case. So we've used gravity and centrifugal force making this piece. And a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm going to swing it out one more time, or at least one more time because it's a little short. Like I said last time, a lot of glass blowers would use a mold for this to make this nice long shape, but I kind of like just the working the glass and getting that shape freehand, freeform. Okay, so that's over. This is my 11, so I'm almost done with that, and I'm going to shape it one more time. We swing it one more time and then shape it again.
Brenda's guessed to the different forms of...
I'm sorry?
Brenda's guessed to the different forms of glass, Brenda from down the street. is solid and molten.
Solid and molten? Yeah. But there's not another name for the molten. There's like solid water is named ice. There is not really another name for molten water is called water. It's glass is glass.
That's true. I didn't talk about that part.
Water is a weird kind of beast. Alright, I like my bottom. I got 11 at the top. I mean 11 high. So I'm hoping I can't remember who it was, I should have looked it up, who wanted to talk about volume with their class, that you're paying attention. I have a 4-inch wide, 4-inch diameter piece, 11 inches tall. It's up to y'all to figure out what the volume is. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off this rod. I have a foot, a body, and a neck. And I'm going to take another rod with a little bit of glass, put it on the foot, cut it off at the neck, and it'll transfer from this pipe to the other rod, and I'll be able to open up the neck of the piece.
Derek said, I always said glass is always liquid, just not on this planet when descending to non-glass blowers.
Okay.
And while he goes to get that, this is what we're making for the latecomers. And these are our colors today.
So the rod that I just got with glass on the tip is called a punty rod. And the punty rod is what's going to transfer from the blowpipe. I'm going to transfer from the blowpipe to the punty so that I can open up the lip, the mouth of the piece. So I'm sticking this on the bottom, hopefully right in the center or close to it. This is a file with diamond impregnated on it. I'm setting up a fracture line where I put the jack line. Remember, I put the jack line in way at the beginning of blowing the shape, and the fracture should break right off. And now it's on the punty. Again, you see I have to keep turning it all the time. And I'm going to flash the whole piece, which means the whole piece gets a little heat. If I don't flash it, it's going to crack and break off. But I'm going to just heat really hard the top part, because that's the part I want to manipulate and open up. So the first heat is the longest heat because the part that was next to the blowpipe was the coldest part of the piece. So now I have to heat it up and make it the hottest part of the piece. So what I'm doing is I'm stopping a split second and seeing if it starts to fall. So it's starting to fall a little bit when I stop. That tells me that it's getting close to being soft enough to start to shape. So if the glass is hot enough, you could use a pair of special glass scissors called shears, and you can cut it. And I'm just cutting it because I want the lip to be even. Now I'm going to heat the whole thing up again, and open that lip up a little bit more. Again, I'm flashing the whole piece so it stays on the punty. If I don't flash the whole piece, when I put pressure on the lip, it'll snap off the punty. This rod. Any other questions so far?
No, but your brother-in-law was giving us a lesson on liquid water.
Who, Jay?
Yeah.
Okay. So I go inside and outside. And I'm going to do once more and roll it really lightly on the marver for a nice crisp line. And you see where my twisties were? Here. There's one up by the lip.
Susan wants to know about how much does the piece weigh at this point?
The piece itself only weighs a couple pounds, but because I can't hold the piece, it's way back on the pipe, it seems probably more like 10 or 15 pounds. And next week, or next lesson, we could talk about fulcrum and difference of weight when you can't grab it at the brain stopped working at the balance point.
Rebecca wants to know what your size limit is.
Depends on my day. So that's I mean, I could do a 5-gather piece. We got some lamps and stuff in here that are pretty big that are 5 layers. Okay, so that's my piece. That is my 2-tone cylinder. Actually, this is what piece I just developed for the show. That was the first one over here. This is the second one. Once it cools off, the yellows will go from that orangey to a real solid yellow like before, like on the table. So I'm going to flash it one more time. And I'm going to come over to the crack-off bench. And if I put the punty on correctly, it shouldn't take much to take this off. So you see, if I had put that down too hard on my bench, that would crack right off. So this is just it's a torch to fire polish the bottom, and that just smooths it out so it's not sharp where the break off was. And then I'm using my special gloves.
We will have a couple of questions before you finish.
Have a little second. And this is the vase. This is what's called an annealing oven. An annealing oven is where you put the piece, like I did when you're done working. The annealing oven is 900 degrees, 912 degrees. And what it does is it stabilizes the temperature of the glass across the whole piece, and then when I'm done with the day, we'll slowly cool it down to room temperature, about 16 hours or so. If we didn't do that, if we just took the piece and left it out, it would go from hot to cold too fast, and it will crack. So we have a couple other questions.
We do. Molly wants to know if you've ever accidentally touched the hot glass barehanded.
Once. You only do it once. I did have I kind of had to go to the hospital kind of thing. You learn to respect the glass, you learn to on what's hot and what's not, and how to handle hot things. So some precautions you use while you're working.
Jennifer and Shaw both kind of wanted to know, why does the glass smoke and spark when you use the tweezers on it?
When I'm using the jacks on it, the jacks have a wax. We put a beeswax on it to lubricate it, to make it glide on the glass. These are wood So that's why you saw sparks coming off of this one, sparks and smoke. So it was just the wood burning, just like the block was. And these, almost time for a new set, but we're good.
And last one was Brittany was saying something that size wouldn't be a blow your own session, would it?
No.
That's it.
Okay, cool. Again, as always, I thank you all for coming. Again, we are www.rosetreegallery.com, Facebook or Rosetree Glass, Instagram Rosetree Glass Gallery. Please support small businesses. We are the backbone of the country. Personally, selling what we have on the table and that kind of thing is our only income now. Everything else is pretty much dried up. So if you can support us, that'd be great. If you can't, I understand. You'll support us later on at some point. I'm cool. Everything's good. So again, thank y'all for coming. Appreciate you being here. Thursday, we're going to have a surprise. So tune in Thursday. Darcy doesn't even know what the surprise is yet. And as always, take care of one another. Love one another. Thank y'all for being here.